Ok. Bonjour à toutes et tous. Nous vous remercions de votre présence. Avant de commencer, nous voudrions partager avec vous quelques informations concernant la manière d'interagir durant le webinaire. Premièrement, aujourd'hui, nous parlerons en anglais. Si vous n'êtes pas à l'aise avec cela, il n'y a pas de problème. Nous déposerons l'enregistrement du webinaire sur YouTube. Deuxièmement, nous vous proposons d'écouter les interventions jusqu'à leur fin et ensuite vous disposerez d'un temps de questions et réponses. Si vous désirez poser une question ou faire une remarque, s'il vous plaît, écrivez votre nom dans le chat. Nous vous contacterons à la fin des interventions et vous pourrez allumer votre micro et votre webcam afin d'interagir. Nous essayerons de vous aider avec la traduction du mieux que nous pouvons. S'il vous est possible de parler en anglais, cela nous sera d'une grande aide. En tant qu'étudiants en muséologie, nous nous sommes présentés bénévolement et nous ne sommes pas des professionnels de la traduction. Nous sommes sûrs que vous comprendrez si nous commettons quelques erreurs. Lors du webinaire précédent, nous avons rencontré quelques problèmes concernant l'utilisation du chat. Si vous ne pouvez pas l'utiliser le chat, n'hésitez pas à lever la main si vous souhaitez poser une question après les interventions. Vous pouvez le faire en utilisant le bouton Team ou en ouvrant votre caméra et votre microphone durant le temps dédié aux échanges et aux questions. Nous vous rappelons également de bien vouloir désactiver votre microphone pendant les interventions. Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à nous écrire à l'adresse suivante babbletowerwebinars@gmail.com. Nous serons attentifs aux emails envoyés durant le webinaire au cas où vous rencontreriez un problème technique de dernière minute et mettrons tout en œuvre afin de répondre à votre demande. La plateforme Teams est un outil que nous utilisons en raison des circonstances actuelles, mais nous ne gérons pas cet outil de manière professionnelle. Enfin, nous allons enregistrer ce webinaire afin de le stocker sur YouTube. S'il vous plaît, si vous n'êtes pas à l'aise avec l'enregistrement, vous avez le choix de regarder ce webinaire avec des sous-titres à partir de fin avril sur YouTube. Si vous utilisez votre caméra, soyez attentif à ce qui apparaîtra à l'écran. Si vous avez des questions sur l'organisation ou un problème technique, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter via le chat ou par le mail Babbletower. Nous vous remercions pour votre attention et nous vous souhaitons un bon webinaire. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Before starting, we would like to share with you some information on who to interact during the webinar. First, today we will talk in English. If you don't feel comfortable with that, don't worry, we will upload the registration of the webinar on YouTube. Second, you will hear the interventions and at the end, there will be time for questions and answers. If you want to ask a question or make a comment, please write your name in the chat. We'll call you at the end of the interventions and you will be able to open your microphone and the webcam in order to interact. We'll try to help with the translation at the best, but if you can speak English, that would help us a lot. As students in museology, we are volunteers and we are not professional translators. We are sure you will understand if we make some mistakes. We have detected some problems with the use of the chat. Please, if you cannot use the chat, feel free to raise your hands if you want to ask questions after the interventions. You can do it using Teams button or opening your camera and microphone during the Q&A time. If you have any question, please do not hesitate to write us an email to babbletowerwebinars@gmail.com. We will check it also during the webinar in order to try to assist if you have any last-moment technological issue. Teams technology is a means that we are using due to the current circumstances. We do not manage this tool professionally, but we are trying to do our best for making this a nice experience for all of us. Third, we kindly remind you to silence your microphone during the interventions. Finally, we are going to record this webinar in order to store it on YouTube. Please, if you don't feel comfortable, you have the option to watch the webinar by YouTube with subtitles by the end of April. If you use the webcam, please be conscious of what will appear on the screen. If you have any question about the organization or a technical problem, don't hesitate to contact us via chat or the Babel Tower mail. Thank you. Enjoy it.
Thank you, Florian. Sorry. So, we are happy to welcome you in the webinars Babel Tower, Museum People in Dialogue. These webinars are the result of Gilsi Papalardo's research mission as guest researcher in the Museology Department of the University of Liège between February and April 2021. Gilsi is a lecturer and researcher in town and country planning and at the University of Catania, Sicily. I have to admit people in the same time. It's a really important name from the world of museums and including eco-museums and community museums, Hugues de Varine, former director of the International Council of Museums, who put us in contact. It's around her research interest in the museology seminar, Museum and Insurgent Museologies, that this series began to be imagined. So we have sessions in French on Friday mornings and others in some afternoon in English, as there are guests from North and South America. Finally, we decided to open all the sessions to the public. The students provide this kind translation, especially in the part of question and answers, and prepare subtitles for the videos that will be uploaded to YouTube. The project started without all these ambitions and has become more important, but always in a part of experimentation, collaboration, and friendship present in these museologies called here insurgents, new museology, social museology, community museology, eco-museology, and many others. These museologies in the plural, which do not hesitate to define themselves as undisciplined and affected in the meaning of affection. I would like to thank the colleagues who participate with me from the scientific committee of the series, Gilsi Papalardo and Martina Barceloni Corte from the Faculty of Architecture of the University of Liège. I also thank the group of master's and doctoral students who are in the organizing committee of the series. Obey Albitar, Pauline Duret, Julia Gulli, Megan Fassan, Alex Nissen, Edouard Nzoyera, Océane Mest, Florian Paquet, Camille Ofsumer, and Lea Di Francesco. We are very happy and proud to have been able to bring together in this program people from different continents, institutional, in sessions and experiences, who will be able to contribute with their very diverse reflections and points of view. Up to this moment, we have 118 participants from 20 countries, and we hope to keep in touch after the webinar series is over. Thank you very much. Welcome. So, Jules, I pass the floor for you.
Thank you. And so before starting, and thank you for being here. And before starting, let me say some brief words about myself, although Professor Duarte has already introduced me. My name is Gilsi Papalardo, and as she told, I'm a lecturer and a researcher, urban and regional planning at the University of Catania in Sicily, which is a region of southern Italy. And thanks to a European-funded project, I'm virtually there at the Department of Science Historique at the University of Liège as a visiting researcher. And I wish, of course, I could have been there physically, and I hope I will be able to do that in the upcoming months if conditions related with the pandemic crisis ameliorate. I also want to thank you all, the students and the scientific committee and the organizing committee that have welcomed me, although in this long distance asset, which is of course more difficult than being in presence, but we are managing that at our best. So this webinar series has been organized in order to map theories, cases, and experiences related with the evolution of the relationship between people, communities, heritage, landscape, and museums. And through this series, we want to open up a space of discussion and reflection for understanding how museums are changing and adapting to societal and ecological challenges, especially after the hard times of the pandemic crisis, which we have experienced and we are still experiencing. Also, we are investigating transnational and transdisciplinary connections, and specifically between urban and regional studies and museology and beyond that, and also how these disciplines can be open to the contribution of local communities who are committed to the revitalization of the heritage from a community-based perspective. So I would like to stop for now, and I would like to start introducing our special guest today. Professor Mike Robinson is a full professor of cultural heritage at the University of Birmingham, and also is the director of the Ironbridge International Institute for Cultural Heritage, which is Europe's largest independent museum. He is also the principal investigator of the Tourism, Heritage and Enterprise Group, working in 30 countries, and advisor to the UNESCO World Heritage Program in Sustainable Tourism and to the Council of Europe's Cultural Roots Program. Thank you for being here, Professor Robinson. Orla Breslin, she's a maker, educator, and community activist that is currently working on with the University College Cork on a project which is called Live, and she will tell us more about that later. She's a local operation coordinator, and she's developing and implementing community and stakeholder engagement initiatives in the creation of the Ireland's first eco-museum in rural South Kerry. Welcome Orla as well, and she will add more during her presentation, of course. So let me just close this very brief introduction. Thanking you all again for being here. We believe this is going to be a learning space. Sorry, I don't know what happened. For learning and exchanging, we would like to make it also very dialogical at the end. So now we will have time for listening to the presentation, and then we will have time for question and answers, and we encourage you to interact with our guests. As we said before, please, if you can, do that in English today. Otherwise, we will try to support with translation, thanks to the wonderful work that students are doing, translating all these Babel webinars with all these very diverse people coming from all over the world. So thank you again, Professor Mike Robinson. The floor is yours now. And after that, Orla will continue with the presentation. When they both finish, there will be time for question and answers. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Can everybody see my presentation?
Yes.
It's okay. Good. Okay. I'm very honoured for being invited to speak to what I think is a very interesting series of seminars, and again, you know, because of our circumstances, it would be very nice for us all to be in the same place. So I'm inviting all of you now to come into my museum, which is actually my house. And it's one of the things I'm going to be talking about in this session. I've worked with museums around the world for many years now, and particularly the museum at Ironbridge Gorge which is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but it also is a series of 10 museums, including an open-air museum or eco-museum, if you like. But today I want to come to this topic with some bigger philosophical questions, because I'm interested in how societies and communities value their pasts and the artifacts that the past leaves us. And I want to ask the question, is the museum the best institution for dealing with these artifacts? And particularly in these times of crisis. What alternatives are there for communities and societies for curating their pasts through material and immaterial culture? And the museum is a wonderful thing. And it's, for me, I always say it's like a drawer or a cupboard in your house where you put all of the things that you like to keep, but you're not quite sure what to do with them, but you put them somewhere safe. And I think that for me has always been the way that I look at museums. I'm interested in what happens to things when they leave people's ownership. Where do they go? What happens to them? And I guess the additional question is, who values what? And I show this illustration here. This is a museum in in Oklahoma, and it's part of a private museum. And it has 20,000 guns on display. Now, walking around a museum with just guns isn't my idea of fun, but nevertheless, this museum attracts over 30,000 visitors a year. So clearly, these artifacts are valued by a community, are valued by an audience. The museum, in a sense, is a sort of a formal recognition of a place, of a repository, as I call it, for what societies and communities value. But of course, societies change, communities change. They become ever more multicultural, multi-ethnic, and of course, they become younger. We all sadly become older, but societies change. And this is an illustration from a museum in Las Vegas, which is not what everybody thinks of when they think about a cultural destination. But nevertheless, this is the Neon Museum in Las Vegas, and it's the Museum of Neon Lights. And of course, these lights now are pieces of history. And so they're displayed partly in the open air and partly inside. But to me, it's symbolic of a wider change in how we see these objects. So we value objects differently over different times, and even over different times of our lives. Now, I remember going to watch Star Wars, the first movie, when it came out back in 1977, and thinking it's all very futuristic and very exciting. But I never thought that Star Wars would become canonized within a museum. It is now part of people's heritage. And this is a part of a museum which hopefully will open later this year in Los Angeles, actually created by the Museum of Science in Boston. And again, it houses objects, artifacts, which are now increasingly highly valued. And sometimes it takes a long time for objects to become valued. What you see in this illustration is what we call slag, S-L-A-G, which is basically the waste products from iron production. And at Ironbridge, because we pride ourselves in being the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution and the first mass production of iron, this waste product is all around. But of course, 300 years ago, this was thrown away. And now we find ourselves guardians of the national collection of slag. So even this has become, has attained value over a period of time. Now, we are engaged in the continuing reproduction of heritage, and that is reflected in the sustained production of both museums and their contents. And I always have a problem in terms of communicating this notion of reproduction, so I just put a photograph of some rabbits there and you can use your imagination. But essentially there is more heritage in the world today than there was yesterday. The lists of registered buildings, of prized artifacts, of world heritage, they always increase. They never go down, they always increase. It's a one-way system. And as such, we need to think about how we house this heritage. Where does it go? We need repositories. And so it's no surprise that the number of museums in the world has increased over the years. Now, I'm giving you figures here for the United Kingdom, but I could, we could talk about the increase in museums in China, which at one point were opening at the rate of 1 museum a week. And most societies around the world have witnessed an increase in the number of museums. And back in 1960, there were around 900 museums in the UK, in the United Kingdom, and now there are over 4,000. And of course, there are different reasons for this. It isn't just about having lots of objects. And I don't want to get sort of too far into this, but I think it's worthwhile reflecting on why we have museums and what generates museums and what do they mean to us. Well, now more than ever, there is a heightened interest in the past. Now that interest is very complex, it's complicated at times, it's very contested, it's very fragmented, and in some cases it's very fleeting. It doesn't last for very long. There's also amongst the museum community and of course the wider heritage community, there's a competition for audiences. Everybody is competing, come to my museum, come to my museum. At Ironbridge, we don't just compete against other museums, we compete against shopping centres and leisure centres and kids playing computer games. And there's also increasing competition for resources and pressure for space. And if you run a museum, you will know that pressure on space is an ever-present issue. And also the growth in museums tell us something about contemporary society. And I make the argument that museums are a response to social crisis. And when people become uncertain of their present and their future, necessarily they look towards the security of their past. So here's some figures though, because I mentioned crisis and we are in crisis now. And these are figures which were predated the COVID pandemic. But from the year 2000 up until 2019, again, these are UK figures. The state-run museum sector has seen a net decline of around 14%. 5% of those have closed and 9% have been transferred to trust status. Again, from the year 2000 till now, the independent museum sector has witnessed a net growth of about 9%. The pressure on municipal local authority funding has been badly hit, and it will be hit even more when this pandemic is eventually over, because most of the new local authority museums, in fact all of the local authority museums that we know about, have experienced a decrease in regular public income. However, there are some significant geographic differences. If you're running the British Museum or the Victorian Albert Museum or the National Natural History Museum in London, it's different. It's London. If you're running provincial museums outside of big centres of population and big tourist destinations, it becomes very much more difficult. Now, I don't want to spend too long on this side of things, but it is linked because there are some serious collection issues which again form this background of change, of social and cultural change. And again, I won't go through them in detail, but hopefully you will recognize them. There's been increased attention on the ethics of those collections and objects which are displayed. There are emerging legal and moral claims to ownership of objects within museums. And we know about repatriation of objects. There's also a change in the way that these objects, what they symbolize and how they are reflected in, again, wider changes in social taste. And of course, what's always interesting in any museum is what is obscured, what is left out. And this fits with the very prescient and important agenda of decolonization at the moment in terms of reassessing where these objects actually came from in the first place, and again, who do they belong to? Another set of issues for museums to deal with. I've always thought of museums as being very similar to zoos. They emerged at the same time in the 19th century, and they were always seen as a sort of a statement of sort of national identity. You had to have a zoo in an important capital of Europe. And of course, like zoos, the objects are behind glass. The animals are behind the bars, and the objects are behind the glass. So, but it isn't just about the physical access to objects. It's also what I'm interested in is the intellectual access to objects. And this goes into the whole area of interpretation. And generally, I would say within the museum sector, interpretation is very, very poor and weak and does not communicate to an audience which is changed out of all recognition. There's also the space issue and the place issue. Where do we put museums? And also this issue of representation. Is this, what is represented to us through museum collections? Is this a democratic decision about what goes in museums? Is it representative of the audiences which come to see these things? And some museums are very traditional, and some museums have become very progressive in terms of what objects and how they represent wider society. But moving away from this idea, and we have moved away from this idea of museums being of zoos, but I very much like the idea of liberating the objects for a more interactive experience, where sometimes you don't know who is looking at who, what is looking at what. The relationships between object and subject become a little bit more, let's say, dynamic. Now, of course, I exaggerate here, but I do think that we need to rethink the relationships between object and subject and move away from this sort of enclosed space to what we might call a wildlife park, sort of a metaphorical wildlife park. A common issue in museums, as I've mentioned, is the lack of space. If you're running a museum, you will know that you can only put a very small percentage of your collections on display at any one time, and that is a really big issue. But I would rather ask the question: how many objects do we actually need? Now, I put in this image some Egyptian shabti, which were buried, as you know, as within part of the burial rituals to serve masters in the next life, and there are literally millions and upon millions of these shabti. As there are millions and millions of pieces of bits of pottery from various periods sitting in boxes. And my question remains, how many objects do we actually need in the world? Because if we go on the way that we have been going on, in this cumulative curve in terms of serving everything, at some point, some decisions have got to be made. So I'm wondering, should we better think about the utility value of museum objects and also their moral value? Who do they speak to? Who do they speak of? Just by the way, the two objects that you see in this image are from the Museum of Useless Objects in Vienna, one of my very favorite museums. And it makes the point that there are some objects which are actually useless in many ways. And I asked the question: do we deaccession objects enough? Do we dispose of objects enough? Now, this is a very controversial and very hotly contested discussion in any museum. But I would suggest that museums are generally fearful of releasing objects into the wild. Something which has come up relatively recently, not just in the UK, but in other parts of the world, but certainly in the UK, when certain local authority museums, public sector museums have had to close, and some of the objects have been disposed of, have been sold. And it raises the question, who owns the objects within public museums? This is legally a very difficult territory, but I think it's just a question that we need to think about. The other question is, who wants to own the objects? Now, again, this is another one of my favorite museums. This is the Museum of Unnecessary Things in Kiev. Because the people in Kiev and Ukraine are not particularly wanting millions of their busts of Lenin to be on public display. So what happens to them? Do they just become destroyed because nobody values them anymore? So who wants to own objects such as these? Now, I mentioned about museums sort of breaking out of their boundaries, breaking out of their containers. And we need to rethink where we do display objects. And I'm interested in museums which exist in other places and spaces. This is a museum in a hotel in Indonesia. And the benefit of this museum is that it has, by definition, it's in a very busy and popular hotel. It reaches a lot of people. And it also sparks an interest in the stories of places attached to these objects, which the audience can then go out and visit for themselves. It's not a big museum, but it creates a lot of interest within a hotel. I'm very interested in working with hotels in developing this type of approach to having mini museums. And of course, this has been done, and you probably know this example. This is the Rijksmuseum, which of course opened a branch many years ago in the airport, in the Schiphol International Airport in Amsterdam. So again, under normal circumstances, you know, this gallery receives a lot of visitors it would not normally receive. The millions and millions of passengers passing through the airport terminal looking for things to do. Here is something which is engaging them in the collection. I work a lot in China and Taiwan, and a project which I was very happy to work on is in a place called Daxi. Daxi is a very small town in Taiwan, and basically it's an open air living museum. And when I say living, it is living. It's basically selections of shops and houses which regulated are open to the public. And what's been interesting is that there's been a transfer of curatorial knowledge to local people. So instead of curators, museum curators, curating little personal collections, local histories, it's training local shop owners and family members to conserve and present and interpret their own mini collections, to tell their own story in situ. And I think it's a wonderful project and a wonderful example, and we can learn a lot from this. When we talk about, again, engagement with the artifacts, this is the restaurant in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. And it's a nice restaurant. The food is very nice, but it could be anywhere. And I compare this to a series of restaurants in the United States, which are for ordinary people. And there's a brand called Cracker Barrel. It's a very well-known USA brand. And every restaurant is filled with local artifacts. So as you're sitting and dining, you can talk about the artifacts, you can touch them, you can ask questions about them. And I think that's a really good way of, again, breaking down the barriers between these, what artifacts people value, rather than having to go somewhere different to see them. And maybe, and I'm fantasizing here a little bit, maybe we really should be rethinking access and location. Where can we put objects that society values in places that majorities of people actually go to and can engage with? So bringing it back within daily life rather than separating it. But of course, outside of the museum sector, and this is something really important, I think, is that objects of value exist. And objects, collections are curated by ordinary people in ordinary houses. And in a sense, isn't this the ideal, where there is, now, okay, we can talk about access, but most people love to share their collections. They love to talk about, and there are networks and discussion groups for collectors all over the world. So this is happening. And I'm interested in all of this, partly because in my previous existence, and for a long time actually, through a family business, I'm an art dealer and an antique dealer. So I'm interested in what people do with their artifacts and how lovingly they engage with them, how they curate them themselves, and how they are really willing to share them. And of course, there is an open market, which in a sense is like a museum. And if you don't have to, you can buy everything, because everything has a price here. And these are the museums I like, where I can wander around, pick objects up, talk about them with people who themselves know and love them. And if I like them enough, I can take one home with me. So again, it's a sort of a, I know it's a difficult area for museums to talk about, but nevertheless, where do a lot of museum objects come from? They come from collectors, they come from dealers, they come from the art market. Okay, I'm conscious of time, so I want to offer some final reflections, and again, just leaves with some questions which I hope we can pick up in discussion. I do think we need what I call a recalibration of how societies actually engage and use museums, particularly in the face of very quick socio and cultural change. And within this context of sustained economic pressures, and also how that impacts upon what we actually value in the world. I do think that de-accessioning of objects, putting objects back into the world, obviously, I'm not talking about, selling off great national treasures or opening museums for people to just come and take objects, of course not. But for actually looking at ways of creating not just physical space, but intellectual space for the new things that we value. And this takes us into the realm of curatorial policy, which tends to be very reactive. And I think maybe we should be thinking about, curatorial policy which lasts for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I also think we need to think very carefully about widening the knowledge of curation towards more co-production. I know co-production happens. It's a buzzword at the moment. It's a trendy thing to talk about at the moment, but it really only happens when there is a transfer of knowledge from the expert curators into the public domain. So decisions are made in a far more consensual and, dare I say, democratic way than the will than the sort of the will of the chief curator. And as I've hinted at, I'm very passionate about creating and establishing new spaces of engagement for engaging with museums, museum objects. And that involves looking at new partnerships and again, thinking about alternatives to museums as repositories of value. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. I'll stop there. I'll try and click out of this and hand over back to my colleagues.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation and for opening up some broad questions about relationship and also talking about engagement, how people engage with artifacts and how the relationship between humans and heritage, between objects and subjects. I think there will be a lot of discussion later on because these are really burning topics that we're investigating from many perspectives. And after your very broad contribution, which has brought us around the world, and you also took some specific topic related with co-production of knowledge. Now we are moving to a presentation that is more grounded into one specific context and that deals with the topic of co-production of knowledge. So we think that these two presentations together maybe can open some space of reflection in terms of what you said, creating engagement, creating partnerships, breaking up barriers, building up relationship. And so with these very few words of comment, I would like to give the floor to Orla Breslin, and she's gonna talk about the live operation project. And actually the title of our presentation is Knowledge Co-Production. And she's gonna talk about sustainable tourism in the rural areas. Please, Orla, the floor is yours now.
Thank you. Hi, I'll just share my screen now. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yes. And now, is it in presenter view now?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Mike. That was really interesting. And I'm going to talk about something really trendy now with my co-production. My name is Orla Breslin and I'm coming to you from Ireland. I have a background in crafts, so I originally used to work as a weaver and in textiles, and I suppose heritage crafts would be something I'm very passionate about. But in this role, I am the local operation coordinator for a new project. We're going to be a brand new museum in Ireland, and I hope we're going to be one of the lucky percentage that succeeds. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the project. So basically, what I want to talk about is the kind of community engagement side of this project, because that's what I'm actually personally working on. And we are trying to co-produce a knowledge-based sustainable tourism project here in Ireland. So hang on a sec. Yeah. So this is LIVE is the name of the project, and it stands for the Llyn Ifra Eco Museums. Eco Gwedfa is an eco museum in Wales, and Eca Museum is going to be the Irish Eco Museum. So I just want to show you quickly where these are. We're working with two very rural areas. You see, this is a map of the UK. Wales is in red, and we are working with the Pentllyn Peninsula, which is circled there. And then this is Ireland, obviously, and Kerry is in green. And if you see down where the circle is, that's where we are based. So it's the southwest of Ireland. And so we're dealing with two very remote rural communities that are far from major cities, and they're surrounded by ocean and divided from the mainland by mountain ranges, large mountain ranges. So they're two very, very similar kind of communities. So we are a brand new project. We're just 5 months in. So we're a collaboration between 6 partners, 3 in Ireland and 3 in Wales. In Ireland, our partners are UCC, the local government, Kerry County Council, and a local regional development company. In Wales, we have the same equivalent. So we're Bangor University, Gwynedd Council and the National Trust. And we're co-funded by the European Regional Development Fund, which is part of the Ireland-Wales cooperation, which specifically looks at coastal communities around Ireland and Wales. So very quickly, I'll give you some of our aims. It's a 3-year project based on environmental and educational tourism across an extended season. So, you know, we're actually almost coming at it the opposite of what Mike said. We're actually trying to bring people here, and it will actually be a huge focus for the community. So we want to increase visitor numbers, and we want them in the shoulder and the winter seasons. So it's a holistic approach to balancing environmental, social, cultural, and economic considerations, but completely aligned to the needs of the community. So we're looking at sustainable and regenerative tourism. So we are hoping to include the community at every single level of our project. And we're overall, it'll be, as I said, it'll be educational and environmental tourism focused in these 2 areas. So I'm just going to show you some lovely pictures first. This is just off the coast, and some of you might recognize it from what Mike mentioned earlier on, Star Wars, the Skellig Islands. So both our areas are stunning seascapes and landscapes, and they're both steeped in cultural heritage. They're both strongholds of minority languages of Welsh and Irish. And the 2 areas already have a thriving summer tourism industry. So why do we need to explore these areas, and how are we going to look at developing the tourism potential for these beautiful destinations? So we are going to do this by focusing on a branch of tourism that hasn't been previously explored in these areas, and that's natural heritage, the natural heritage of these 2 stunning locations. I feel like I'm doing a tourist advert at the moment. So we want to extend the summer season, attracting more engaged tourists who will stay longer and spend more and engage deeply with the communities, rather than being on a bus tour, traveling around and just stopping off at destinations to take pictures. For a very ambitious program, we aim to enable coastal communities to create and develop opportunities for sustainable tourism. And we're going to use the ecotourism model, whereby tourism providers, attractions, and natural heritage sites come together to co-brand and co-promote each other to create a powerful, sustainable brand, completely based on the local natural environment and unique local culture. So I mentioned 2 eco-museums. Eco am Gwedfa is in Wales, and they already have established their eco-museum. Eco Museum is going to be the Irish one, which we hope to establish by the end of our project. So the Eco am Gwedfa is in the Penllyn Peninsula, and it began as a landscape partnership, a collaborative project that brought together loads of different groups. And it was centered on addressing the challenges on the natural resources of the area. So the communities in the Penllyn, the Llyn Peninsula, rely on their natural resources, farmers, fishermen, and so their project was developed to maintain and expand a continuous strip of diverse habitat along the coastline, working very closely with farmers, and they developed the Welsh Coastal Walk. And then they took it a step further and picked these 7 core partners that came together to create Eco am Gwedfa. And they worked together to use the marketing potential to promote Penllyn. So we're very lucky that not only have they had a very successful land partnership, but they have a successful eco-museum. So we feel very lucky here in Ireland that we will learn so much from them when we set up our own eco-museum. So what will our Irish eco-museum look like? Well, we actually don't know yet. And it kind of makes this project both scary and exciting. The unifying element between most eco-museums is that they are community-led initiatives focused on culture and landscape of that particular location and work to benefit communities directly. So I know as part of this Babel Tower series, you've talked about eco-museums, so I don't want to go into the model general too much, because there's so many different types. So I just want to talk to you about what we are going to try and create, what we are looking at as part of the Irish model. So we want to develop a network of locations in the Iveragh Peninsula that will bond together through mutual agreement, marketing, branding, and sustainable tourism practice. So we are looking to create a model that will be community-led grouping of tourist attractions. And we are going to focus on natural heritage sites, but there is a wealth of historical sites that could be included. There is some incredible archaeology on the peninsula. So what we are going to do is develop a model to package activities for visitors to engage with when they are here. And we are hoping that this will encourage visitors to stay longer in the area, to interact more with the environment and with the community. So this is another lovely picture of our peninsula, and you may note that we have picked a particular tone of color and everything in our branding, and this is because we are trying to promote the beauty of the place in the shoulder seasons, in autumn, spring and winter. And so both Iveragh and Llyn are spectacular locations, and we have the most incredible wild sea landscapes, incredible biodiversity. In Valentia Island, we have geological wonders from tetrapod trackways, fossils to submerged ancient forests. So we host incredible sea and land flora and fauna, and any geologist or ecologist will tell you when they have been here that it's absolutely incredible. But we are also home to dwindling numbers of endangered coastal birds who suffer coastal erosion with worsening storms, and we're completely isolated, as we have found out in a global crisis such as this current pandemic. And, you know, our tourism industry has been absolutely decimated. So, you know, everybody is struggling just to get by. So although we don't like putting a monetary figure on nature, in order to make people and governments value our natural heritage as much as we do our Irish heritage. And even that slide that Mike showed about the bar in the States with all the heritage items on the wall, that just looks like any Irish bar, especially in rural Ireland. So we're very good at promoting our cultural heritage, but we must look at our natural heritage. And in order to do that, we need to develop our concept of what it is, personalize it to a particular location and see it for the incredible value that it is, and capitalize on it. So we're trying to both value and add value to our natural capital. So we don't really know how we're going to do this yet. We don't know how we're going to develop the community-led initiatives to add the value and value our natural heritage. So I just want to really quickly talk to you. You might have heard about the Wild Atlantic Way. Pre-COVID, we had a booming economy, tourism economy that built up around this tourism initiative, the Wild Atlantic Way. And it begins up in Donegal and goes right around the coast, all around Kerry. It's the longest defined coastal touring route. But without investment to maintain its natural value infrastructure and support the habitats and species that make it such a magical place to visit, we risk degrading this asset. So we're abusing it with wider roads to cater for bus tours and bigger car parks, and a rise in holiday homes all across the west coast of Ireland means a reduction in long-term housing availability for locals, not to mention the damage done to wildlife habitats through increased visitor numbers. So the Wild Atlantic Way, however successful a tourism campaign, has limited opportunities for local businesses because of the seasonality of the current tourism industry in rural Ireland. So we need to support our natural infrastructure on land and in sea, and we cannot do that without making local communities see the value of their eco-structure systems, the value of their natural heritage, and to cherish it, to become guardians and help them move towards more sustainable practices. So pre-COVID, nature tourism was a niche, especially here in rural Ireland, but now it's become mainstream. And even governmental plans for tourism in 2021 all include sustainable tourism as a foundation as opposed to a sideline. So we're looking at using the eco-museum strategy because it is adaptable, it's sustainable, it's community-led, and it plays to the strength of the local communities. So the target we're looking at what kinds of tourists would actually come here to visit our eco-museum. And these could include general tourists, but we're actually going to target specific types of tourism, looking at segments such as the culturally curious and outdoor enthusiasts, nature lovers. We are looking at volunteerism, looking at the potential for citizen science activities as a tourism output. If you had the opportunity to go counting whales, would you come here and help be part of a citizen science activity? So by doing this, we're trying to spread tourism into the off-peak months, creating unique experiences and getting people to trying to teach how you can see your wonderful natural heritage as an asset to be appreciated and developed. So we want more wild areas, not more car parks, and more biodiversity rather than the manicured guest house lawns we see all the time. So how are we going to do this? Well, one of the things we have done is develop a program called the Knowledge Gathering Program. We want to create a fully collaborative research project where the local communities are actively engaged in every aspect of the project, from where to research or even what to research, and deciding what the key outputs should be. And that's why I mentioned that this project is both scary and exciting, because we have an outline of what we want to do, but we don't know how we're going to get there. So one of the things we're doing is looking at the local communities and trying to map them out so that we can work really, really closely at a very ground level, so that we can get the communities not just to take part in the projects, but actually to initiate them, to help us decide what data to gather it, how we gather it. This could be field work through citizen science projects, co-creation of educational materials. We want to be guided then on how we communicate our data outputs, from scientific papers to practical open source maps. The community are going to be involved in every aspect of this project. So as I said, we started by trying to map out the community, seeking out individuals, groups and organisations on the ground here in Iveragh and in Wales in Flynn. Obviously, we're a new project, so we've started this completely in lockdown. So, you know, we're working as hard as we can virtually. But there were numerous ways we could open up communications with the locality. So knowledge is deemed as a vital engine for innovation, and it's a key factor in driving sustainable development. So we wanted to create a program that is a synergy between communities, organizations, academic departments, and aim to create and foster the value of knowledge, creating a regenerative knowledge-based tourism industry, targeting multiple segments of visitors. So this project isn't a top-down or a bottom-up approach to gathering knowledge, but a process-based approach through research, network building, and personal exchange. So we hope to facilitate an exchange of knowledge that will be produced on many levels, from academic halls to muddy fields, and various formats from verbal to digital. So we want to value and demonstrate the local knowledge equals scientific knowledge, and that's something Mike had mentioned earlier on as well. So just to tell you a little bit more about our knowledge gathering program. So we wanted to gather existing local knowledge while also filling in any gaps in scientific and other data relating to the natural environment and a natural capital of each area. So in September, just last year, we hired our first small team of knowledge gatherers, and you can see their pictures here. And I want to just tell you very quickly what they are doing so you can get a better idea of our research methods and outputs. So one of the things we've been doing is trying to identify knowledge gaps and areas of environmental interest in Ivrea and Llyn. So we've been trying to find connections, building networks of environmental educators, experts, and activities that are already on the ground. A lot of these hard-working environmentalists have been working alone in small groups for years, battling apathy about the degradation of our landscape and struggling to find funding or run small businesses. So one of our first tasks was actually to meet them, congratulate them, and acknowledge their hard work, and also to learn from their experience on the ground. And our task is to offer any support we can that is in the remit of this project. So we've also been connecting with local tourism industry, established co-working groups, individual businesses. We've been gathering data on environmental knowledge through various mediums, and we're going to start collecting a digital archive. And this isn't just data management of our research, it's going to be a digital archive of imagery, videos, sound that can be used to create a suite of creative digital media outputs. And this could include blogging, story maps, social media campaigns, and then eventually a targeted app for the area. So some of the activities we've been doing on the ground in Ivrea and Llyn, we've been carrying out habitat mapping of local wildlife, such as choughs and Ireland's only lizard. We've created a geoheritage trail of Valentia Island, which is home to tetrapod trackways and numerous other exciting geological finds. And we are co-creating bilingual wildlife education packs for schools working with local artists and teachers. We're working with local recreational officers and rangers, assessing the existing walking trails and creating resources and guides to show the wonderful biodiversity and environmental points of interest and walks. We're collaborating on events such as World Curlew Day, which is coming up in April, connecting local interest groups and other European projects. There's a great project called ECHOES project, which is another Interreg project, working together to try and pool our time and resources to make a bigger impact. So we're in the middle of a pandemic, so running a community engagement program in rural areas is not very easy to achieve. It definitely hasn't made my life easy. And we wanted community buy-in from day one. So one of the things that we have done to try and do this is we've looked at PPGIS, which is Public Participation Geographic Information Systems, and to help us map out the local knowledge that we're looking for that we might have received if we had done facilitated workshops in a physical location. So for any project or development to be truly sustainable, it must uphold 3 pillars of sustainability, which is social, economic, and environmental. So the community mapping that we were looking at, we are looking at knowledge co-production, community engagement and empowerment in the social dimension, short and long-term benefits from sustainably designed tourism opportunities in the economic dimension, and applications of local environmental knowledge, practices and considerations in the environmental dimension. So I suppose one of the drawbacks of PPGIS is it's a relatively new field, so it lacks a sort of coherent fixed framework of research, but at the same time it's very, very flexible, and we were able to adapt it to suit our needs. We hired a young researcher called Soli Levy as one of our knowledge gatherers, and she's helping us map out these local communities. So our survey literally just finished last week, so I don't have a huge amount to show you, but I just wanted to show you two samples of what we have done and what we were looking at. So if you see this one here, this was one of the questions we asked respondents, was how they felt the greatest barriers to environmental education is in their region. So I'm representing this as a mind map here, but we will map all these out to a GIS map so we can really narrow down areas and communities and see what's important to them. And, you know, the more we can tailor initiatives to local places, the better we can serve the needs of the community. So, and we're also hoping to tie in with a lot of other local initiatives, such as community transport, well-being and accessibility campaigns, communal resources, internet access, digital literacies. There are so many other things that we could tie into. Any other barriers the local community feels is hindering their environmental access and education. So this is another mind map that we did. And again, this will be put on a GIS map so we can better track things to the local area. So this question we asked was on sustainable tourism opportunities in the quieter winter months. Each community has different suggestions and preferences. So this sample is from Caherdaño, which is in the south of the peninsula. And there's some fantastic suggestions that came in from the local community, such as local area maps, themed breaks, foraging walks, camper van facilities. And it's also really interesting to see where locals don't want more tourists. This could be because they prefer these beauty spots to themselves. We all have our favorite places. But a lot of the time it's to do with infrastructure and accessibility, small back roads, and not wanting tourists to park badly or walk over private land. So our project, to be truly holistic, sustainable and regenerative, we are looking at everything, knowing how the community feels. The good and bad of tourism is essential. So these are going to be fantastic. This GIS maps are going to be really, really good for us to be able to develop all our future programs. So I've mentioned education and training is going to be an important part of our project too. And we're very lucky that UCC has an outreach centre in Cahersveen, which is the north of the peninsula. And they've been very, very successful in delivering adult education courses. And so we are going to be working with them to try, and this is another ambitious part of our plan, is to develop and strengthen this Irish Eco-Museum by offering accredited courses on environmental education that will be tied in with the museum, but also based on our research and findings. And this is one aspect of the project that we feel is very important. UCC, the college in Cork, has had a long presence in the area through geological, ecological, and, as I mentioned, archaeology research. And so we are trying to creatively engage at a very local level. So we don't just forge links between academia and communities. There is a wealth of research in the UCC archives already there. And what we want to try and do is bring that archives back into the communities, bringing the knowledge back to the knowledge bearers, and try and make practical applications from this academic research. And, you know, we keep saying at all times throughout this project is, what is our legacy? What do we really want? And that's something that we really hope will be an outcome of this project. And it also ties in with, we have a specific work package based on the Sustainable Development Goals and the Wellbeing Act in Wales. And the Wellbeing Act in Wales is an incredible piece of legislation because it insists you think about the legacy, the well-being of future generations at all times. So this isn't just a nice to have as part of our project. We will actually be assessed on our impact to actively improve communities through environmental education and sustainable regenerative tourism. As I mentioned before, networking is very, very important for us. And, you know, all the material resources, maps, fact sheets, everything we plan to create will be open access and available for anybody to use. But there is a danger of creating resources that look fantastic, but are actually of no use to anybody on the ground. And so we are trying to connect with networks that already exist. And if they don't exist, can we facilitate them? Can we help create them, such as an educator network? There is already some fantastic tourism initiatives in the area. We have a gold level dark sky reserve. We have a potential geopark. We have a UNESCO bid for the Valentia Island Transatlantic Cable Center. So we have incredible potential eco-museum sites, and it's just a question of working really closely with all these groups to try and develop our model. Another thing that's really important about our area is we have a Gaeltacht area. And what a Gaeltacht area is, it's a special area of interest in Ireland where Irish is spoken as a first language. And the community in Penllyn in Wales is also a very, very unique area. It's a stronghold of the Welsh language. So while our project is very much focused on environmental knowledge, we're looking at ways of combining our research and the vernacular by collaborating with individuals and organisations tasked with cultivating the Welsh and Irish languages. So everything we produce will be trilingual. And so, you know, it's trying to cultivate this community of knowledge where we can interlink and interconnect to strengthen both the project, our knowledge of natural heritage, and these wonderful communities. So I'll try and finish up as quickly as possible. These are some of the outputs that we want to have by the end of our 3-year project. We want to develop a sustainable network to manage the eco-museum after our project finishes. And we've been connecting with other eco-museums to look at their models and learn from their processes. So we've connected with our Celtic neighbours, which is Skye Eco-Museum and Cateran Eco-Museum in Scotland. And just last week, we spoke to Coco Tour, which is another EU Interreg project looking to establish an eco-museum in Albania. So the more we can learn from our European friends who have experience in setting up and running successful community-led eco-museums, the better outcome for our project. And we're going to develop a suite of print and digital resources. I have mentioned them already. And these will be freely available for anybody to use, either personally or within their business, within their commercial use. We want businesses to use the resources to build and promote nature tourism, and they can adapt them to suit their needs. We want to create a recognizable ecotourism brand for the Iveragh Peninsula. Again, it'll be free for anybody to use. And in order to help with this, we're going to provide training on best practices in sustainable tourism, branding and marketing. Again, that complete package for visitors in the shoulder seasons and in the winter seasons. And then they can collaborate together. So accommodation providers, restaurants, outdoor pursuits instructors can all work together to create a package deal, simplifying the booking process and bringing prospective visitors to the peninsula. And the visitors will know what they can do, where they can go, and then they can plan their visits accordingly. So as I have mentioned at the start, our two target areas already have very busy summer seasons. But an increase in visitor numbers is not good for our rural communities. We have poor infrastructure, little public transport, and most of our employment is very seasonal and it's minimum wage. And there is a lack of year-round affordable housing. So we don't want to increase the number of visitors in peak seasons. We want more engaged visitors throughout the year, especially in the off-peak seasons. So maybe COVID has helped us in some ways, making people think about how they have previously spent their holiday time, how they have traveled, and about their carbon footprint. And we want to ensure that local people are able to develop the type of tourism that benefits them, and the visitors have a chance to engage with their host communities, those people who live in these places and what makes them so special. So I'll finish up now, but I would just like to say that, as I said, we have ideas of where we want to go. We know what we want to do, but we have some ideas of how we're going to get there, but we are very, very open to having the community in this process. We want to co-create the approaches towards answering all these questions, valuing the local knowledge as much as the academic knowledge, and enable stakeholders and members of the public to work with researchers, to work with our researchers, and to connect with the wider research area. And help us interpret the findings. And this is the aim of our live project. So we want to come together with shared experiences to ask questions of what needs to be done, which is the knowledge gathering, and co-production of the methods by which we will answer them, which is gathering knowledge. So I just want to say Gorge Museum Trust tá áthas orm a bheith anseo ag caint faoi Eco-Museum Ivrahig. Thank you very much, dear.
And thank you. And I will say grazie. I will answer in my own language, and I want to comment for your presentation. Thank you again. And I think there is a lot of space for discussion and exchange of experiences. You have talked about one very specific experience case and community. And yes, these webinars are also meant to make experiences dialogue between themselves, so that they can, at the international level, support each other thanks to exchange of what has been done on the ground, what are the difficulties of doing such a job on the ground, especially in these hard times of pandemic. I can really imagine how hard that was. And I mean, I'm also from the side of a rural community, and I was into your I was totally empathizing with you when you say, okay, we started doing this now that all this has started. But as we say, there are always means to also to overcome these difficulties that we are experiencing. So I will stop commenting now, because now the floor is yours. It's of the people that are taking part to the webinar. So please don't be shy. Let's start with a round of questions. If you have any of them, just raise your hand right on the chat, or if you cannot write on the chat, just raise your hand. Could be the Teams hand, or could be your physical hand. So is there anyone who wanna start with questions? Okay, Mina. Hamina, can you hear us? We cannot hear you. Your microphone is off. Your microphone is still off. Maybe she's having some problems with the microphone. Sorry.
Mina, you can write in the chat and we try to read.
Exactly. Thank you.
There's other hand.
I cannot see other hands.
Meanwhile, I will make a question to Mike Robson. Thank you for both interventions and very provocative questions you put. I have an impression coming from Brazil where the museums are very have the tickets very cheap and still a lot of support of the government to maintain, even if each time less. But our way to manage museums is more like public museums, and you told you have the biggest independent museum in Europe, and I want to know how you deal with the initiatives or the ideas to make more inclusive actions when you need to make money with the museum. This is something that is always in my mind, because the more obvious is you can maintain the museum when you have a public visitors that can pay ticket and buy in the shop and go to the restaurant, etc. But how you can do more inclusive actions and support the museum this way, economical way?
Okay, thank you, Manuel, Alina. Over the past sort of nearly 40 years, we've worked out a management model which isn't perfect, but it seems to work for us. Your question is a very good one. We do charge entry for the museums. We were the first museum, I think, to introduce a passport ticket. So the passport ticket is for 1 year, and you can buy a family ticket and you can visit the museums as many times as you like, because you can't visit all of the museums in 1 day. It's impossible. It's 7 square kilometers. So if you work out the cost of that, it's actually a very cheap experience. But the other thing, and again, the site is what I would call more a cultural landscape with museums in between. So people can come to the museum, they can come to the landscape, they can look at the World Heritage Site monuments for free. We don't charge for that. But I can tell you that the model breaks down as follows. We get about 60% of our income from visitor from tickets. We then have our own retail brands. So we sell online and we have gift shops. Because we are an independent trust, we actually own some of the properties. So we have rental income coming in from other businesses. And then we, like everybody else, we have restaurants, we have cafes, we have a fish and chip shop, we have a sweet shop, we have so many different things. And one of the biggest, until recently, until last year, one of the biggest things we had was weddings. So, and again, Weddings are nice because they involve the whole of the community as well. So everybody comes. It's a very inclusive way of dealing with things. Now, we also have a massive educational program. So we organize about 70,000 school visits a year. So we work in partnership with schools and colleges and local authorities nationally for these things. So again, you know, there is nothing that we do which is meant to be exclusive. Our twin objectives are of conservation and education. So we have a very advanced education process. And the problem is when you have a good season, everything works well and our cash flow is okay. When you have a bad season, it's very difficult. So we have to develop partnerships. So our network of partnerships is massive. So we have partnerships with computer organizations, with local businesses, international organizations. You know, I mean, it's a very, I characterize it as a very messy management system, but it works. And if it works okay, it's fine. I think I'm totally honest here. At the moment, it's very difficult because of the pandemic. But we aim to be inclusive. And if you look at the profile of our visitors, it's everybody. You know, it's not. We have nationally designated collections. We have to do more with them. I don't believe we're doing enough with them to get more people engaged. But that's why we exist as an independent trust to do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
I also have a question to Orla.
Okay, go.
By the time the people imagine other questions, maybe you think I'm a little bit obsessive with money or fundings now, but the question is more or less is close, but it's not my interest always. But today, by coincidence, I was thinking when you said we actually don't know yet how you do a specific methodology. I was thinking this is a big difficulty when we need to apply for fundings in the agencies. For example, we need to have a very precise methodology, and how you are organizing this to have a methodology more open, participative is very difficult. We say before exactly the results we aim to arrive, because the idea is exactly be more open to contributions of the people we will do together. So how you deal with this, with the open methodologies and the need to apply to funds, for example?
It's very difficult. At the moment, we have 3 years of EU funding to get this project off the ground. And, you know, as I said, that's what makes it really exciting, but scary at the same time, because we want every decision to be made collaboratively with the community. So that is one of the reasons why I met you at that Eco Museum webinar. And I've been going to all these other events because I've been researching different types of models. So is it community? Is it a trust? Is it a social enterprise? Is it, is it part owned by the local government? That's not a decision we can actually make, because it has to come from the community and how involved they want to be. And it is really difficult, the fact that we don't know what it's going to be yet, because we can't look any further than our 3-year project at the moment. But we're not actually looking to go any further. And I suppose that is why we are probably concentrating more on the educational development side of it than we are, even though we're actually technically a tourism project, we're very much focused on get it running on the ground with the locals on the ground and then see what happens after that. So yeah, it's very difficult.
Mike, yes.
Sorry, just a question for, well, a question, comment for Ola. Thank you very much, Ola. It was very interesting, and I know a little bit about the Welsh side. I'm sorry to say I don't know as much about what's happening now on the Atlantic coast, but I think you're doing the right thing in terms of the education side of things, because all of this starts with communication to local people. And yeah. I run workshops with World Heritage sites and people who are living in World Heritage sites, and they don't even know it's a World Heritage site, or they don't know why it's a World Heritage site. So how do we expect them to buy in, you know? And wearing my sustainable tourism hat, you know, it's the first thing I do is we have very, you know, basic fact-finding sort of workshops to know what people's expectations are, etc. I just wondered if you had any initial sense from the community of what their perceptions of value were of the landscape and the natural heritage, because as you mentioned, people seem to identify more easily with cultural heritage and placing values on that. By natural heritage, it's big and it's nature and it's all around us, and so we're not quite sure what it is, etc. And I just wondered if you had any initial sort of feedback and in terms of what people's knowledge levels were with regard to this.
Well, up until now, I would say it's quite divided, because you have a tourism industry that's still very focused on towns, big towns and cities. We have, like, as I said, the Wild Atlantic Way is an incredibly successful tourism initiative, and it has, you know, done a lot for rural Ireland, especially the West Coast. But, you know, I live here and I see it every summer. We're like a drive-by Instagram shoot. You know, people just still stay in the cities, but drive out and drive around and that's everybody's motto during the summer. We're not a drive-by, you know, and you know, so, but the problem is that it is so busy here in the summer. It is incredibly busy, and everybody works 7 days a week, every hour they can. And then in winter, there's nothing. And people don't actually stop to take the time to think about what's going on, because we're so busy in the summer and then we're so tired in the winter that, you know, there hasn't been an awful lot of thought about natural heritage as a whole thing. And, you know, I suppose in some ways, COVID has been an absolute devastation to the start of this project, but it's actually been, there's some silver lining there, because it's completely changed people's attitude to their own locality. All, you know, everyone I meet now goes, thank God we live where we do, because imagine being stuck in a city and you're locked down. So it has completely changed that kind of atmosphere. But I was born in Dublin, but I've been living down here for years. And you have that divide between people who live here because it's beautiful and people who are just born here and farm here, but don't see it further than that. So I suppose that's what we're really trying to do, is bridge all those gaps. But we're hoping, as I said, I just showed you the 2 mind maps from our PPGIS survey, but the results of that are going to be really interesting, because we can really see exactly what people think of their local community.
Okay, still waiting for other questions. I will make some of mine if you allow me. Thank you again. But so I have one question for Mike, which is more general, because I think, I mean, it was very provocative and it was food for thoughts. And I was trying to think about, at one point you touch the term democracy, and you say that this way of re-engaging, rethinking, recalibration, the relationship between objects and subjects and humans and heritage could change. Our times are changing. Could you add something more related with how this could be more democratic from your point of view and from your experience? How democracy is related with that? And that's for Mike, and then I will go back for Orla with another question.
Well, you know, it's things are changing, and I know, you know, the museum sector has changed a lot and will continue to adapt and change. But I mean, well, when I am at work, I'm working in Birmingham, which is a massive city. There are 85 different languages spoken in Birmingham, 125 different cultures represented in Birmingham. And still we have a museum which is basically a testimony to the wealthy industrialists of the 19th century. So in itself, that is a real issue now. So how do we make museums more representative of the communities that they're supposed to represent? And the only way to do it is dialogue. And actually, it's back to education and communication. And also because, you know, museums are very formidable places. People stand outside big edifices and they think, yeah, what's this got to do with me? You know? So whose responsibility is it to get people through the door? You know, I see it as the museum's responsibility. You know, I think the museum is a public institution, so it has to be responsible to its publics. And so I give you an example of something which, again, one of my team worked on about 4 years ago. In Birmingham, there is a very big Bangladeshi community. And we were speaking as we went out for a Bangladeshi meal. We were in a restaurant and we were speaking to the owner, and he started telling us all of these stories about how his father and how his grandfather came and what problems they had about setting up a business. So we spoke to the museum, we initiated the dialogue, and lo and behold, the museum put on a very nice exhibition where they recreated an Indian Bangladeshi restaurant from the 1950s in the museum. We opened that up as an oral history project to get people to talk about it. And for the first time, lots of the Bangladeshi community were coming into the museum. When they were in the museum, they also became interested in the rest of the objects. So, you know, these things don't just happen. You have to, you know, there has to be a push, you know, and so I think, and there are many good examples, many good examples, but it's back to that basic communicating what it is that museums do and what these objects are and what they represent. And maybe we have to think about changing the narrative. And I'm very passionate about using narrative in everything that we do. And so I think, you know, lots of things have changed, but just as an example, I would give you that, Jussi, as an example.
Thank you. Also, I mean, I didn't stress that before at the beginning, but one of the reasons also behind my interest in this conversation is that I'm, through an action research project, I'm trying to push the creation of a Nico Museum in Sicily, which is actually engaging with all these questions that are also related to changing the narrative. And so thank you, because as you say, there are many pieces around the world, many interesting cases of how to do the things, but what we are trying to collect now is this picture that is context-based, as you said. So when you had to answer me, of course, you say, okay, I did that in Birmingham, that community has that specificity, because each community then has to find its own way, I think. So thank you again for this answer. Before my question to Orla, I saw another that is, but I think it's the same person that changed the account, right, Mina? It's still you. Can you? Okay, now I think we can hear you. Can you talk, please?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Thank you very much. I have a question concerning virtual museum. I want to ask if the museum of tomorrow, it can be virtual, and what is the place of this virtual museum? Thank you.
I guess this is to me, yes? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, virtual museums, they have a role to play. I think they are still very, I think our ambitions for virtual museums are a little bit overreaching, because I think eventually you still, if you are basing your virtual museum on physical objects, on material culture, you still have to have a space for your material culture. And in a sense, virtual museums, I mean, you know, you could argue that they are very exclusionary. They exclude people who are not familiar at the moment with the technology, with the people who cannot access them. And around the world, that's a lot of people. And you cannot substitute the visceral nature of the object, you know, the touch and the feel and the emotion, and again, the story, the narrative which goes with the object. So, you know, in times of COVID, virtual museums, virtual exhibitions, you know, I mean, they're all over the place, you know, and intellectually they're quite interesting. But I don't think there's a long-term real future in that. I don't believe that. I think it's about they can help in terms of access, but at the end of the day, people want to see, feel, touch, smell, and have that story, and you can only do that by now. I think it brings me onto a very important message, which I hope I got across. If people can't get to the museum and see the objects there, the objects have to come to the people. And that's the big message. And that's what we are not doing very well.
Thank you. And I think this goes in line with what we are experiencing also. I mean, we are experiencing this new way of doing webinars, and so, but that cannot substitute the necessity of direct relationship. And yes, I think that moving objects to the people, but still considering the physical dimension, the bodies and the smell, as you say, that's a key. And so thank you also for this. One last question by my side for Orla. I was wondering if you have engaged in some conversations with the local people, trying to understand how they perceive the live project, if they perceive it as a something that is growing with them, or if some way you got some critiques related with the fact that it could sound like a top-down, although you explained that this is not a top-down initiative, but if there are some critiques from the local community that perceive the project as top-down.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose that's why I was hired, because all the rest of the team are geologists and ecologists. I'm the only non-geologist and ecologist in the group. So, and I live here. And I've been very involved with a lot of community projects here because, as I said, my background is as a maker and as an artist. And, you know, one of the things I love doing, you know, like Mike says, is just, you know, I don't even, you know, people say to me, oh, we want to get outside the box. And I go, what box? There's no box there unless you put the square around it. So I've done a lot of work with different kind of organizations and festivals doing workshops in muddy fields out on the land. I do, you know, like there was an architecture festival, so I put on a Lego building workshop in the local library. I'll do every way I can to change things and make sure that the locals, it's a local event. And also, you know, something else Mike said about people being curators, and it's finding that local interest. Not everybody wants to be part of this, but finding out if they have any little bit of interest, and that's where our knowledge mapping comes in. What is the area that they're interested in? So, and for some people, it could be just, you know, they just want to go bird watching. They don't want to be part of this big eco museum idea, and that's okay too. So it's trying to make sure that there's every level of possible engagement, whether it's just personal or commercial. And I suppose because I live here, I have access to the community, and I've worked down there before, so I've had a lot of telephone conversations and one cup of coffee when I was allowed about 6 months ago. But and that's basically my job, is the community engagement side of it, to make sure at all times what's coming from the academic research and the community is working together, I suppose. And if, you know, and hosting meetings and talking to people. I love nothing better than hearing people's stories. We have an event here in Ireland called Heritage Week every August, and I try and do something different for it every year. And obviously not last year, but the year before, I did a Bring Your Tools exhibition in our local museum, where I just invited anybody who had like old tools to bring them and talk about them. And now only 5 people turned up, but we had an absolutely lovely afternoon. And it's just that constant trying to find different ways of talking to people, you know, and gathering the info and gathering the stories. And Irish people do tend to like telling their stories, so it's easy enough to get it out of them. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, yes. There is another one. Anna, please.
Hi, good afternoon, or good evening, maybe more. Thank you so much for those lectures. I love how they were a bit complementary together. So I had a couple of questions, but I know we are like kind of like pressed by time. So mostly more like a comment now, because we had so much like new elements added by like the other questions before. And I really enjoyed the part, Mr. Robinson, about the accumulation of items and how it's becoming more a problem. And I was wondering if in your institution you were thinking to like organizing workshops to people in the community to be more informed about how to inventory or how to preserve their objects, because that's also, I think, one part of the problem of why there is this accumulation in museums, is that conservation and inventory is not accessible for everybody. It's still very much a specialist field, and so I was wondering what was your thought about this, and yeah.
Okay, well, I'm a great believer in sharing the expertise that museums have. But you know, as you know, knowledge is power, and there are many experts who don't like sharing their information and their knowledge, or are not given the opportunity to do so. So, I mean, I think I mentioned this very participative project in Taiwan, where museum curators actually did spend time with local people in their homes, and they asked them, well, okay, well, what have you got which is valuable? What tells the story? So people will bring out photographs and objects, and you know, one guy had his grandfather was a dentist. He still had his dentist chair and his tools, and of course, you know, you can, in that circumstance, you can pass on. Well, okay, these are the best ways to preserve them. This is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't do. And maybe, you know, and this is maybe how you could display them, etc. At the end of the day, the difficulty is for curators is to leave go, because they think, no, we can do this. We should have this in a museum, and it should be in a temperature controlled room with the humidifier on, and everything should be, you know, people don't work like that. People have valuable things around their homes, and you know, but they know they're valuable. So I think there needs to be a sort of a meeting together, and I have run workshops. We have run workshops and continue to do so about this in different parts of the world. And if all goes to plan, and again, who knows what's going to happen later this year, but I'm supposed to be working with some traditional villages in China who have got some fascinating stories, and they want to tell them from their local houses. They don't want to have their objects taken away or donated to a museum, and the museum doesn't want them anyway. Because museums now, you've got to have provenance, you have to know where these things come from. It's not easy to give things to museums anymore. So what do we do with this stuff? So we have to be very creative, I think. So I'm talking to them about new creative ways of interpreting this material, and how they can build that into different narratives, which are of use to them, not to the museum, but of use to them, to the community.
So that's probably how you see now, like the digital technology coming up now is just for you, like, do you think that it's just gonna bring that importance of intangible now, hopefully, with that? Because people are still seeing it as a way like, oh, that's cool, I can add this in my exhibits and I can have paintings on the walls. But most importantly, it's gonna be a mean for like keeping those objects still in the museums, but still like in the house of people.
I gave a conference keynote a few years ago on what I call palliative care for heritage, because we can't keep everything. We have to let some things die, you know, but now we can record them, you know. We can't keep every heritage building, you know, nor should we, because otherwise we don't have anything new coming up, you know. So so letting things die, but the digital side of things is very important for that, because now you can record. We can record everything fantastically now. And when you work with intangible cultural heritage, and again we work with that as well, that's important. At Ironbridge, we have craftsmen who've worked. Some of them are in the 70s and the 80s, who've been working with old industrial tools and equipment, which nobody else would know how to use. So, but we can record that now. We can video it. We can have lots of oral histories programs. even 30 years ago, 20 years ago, that wasn't possible to the extent it is now. So it's an important tool, but it's only a mechanism, as you say. It's only a means to what you want to do with it. But I'm a firm believer in leaving some heritage and saying, let it die, forget about it, you know, because we do that anyway. You think about your own house, you know, some things you like and you keep, some things you throw out and you give to the charity shop or you give to the rubbish dump or whatever. That's normal. You know, we can't keep everything, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. If there are no other questions, we are running a little bit late, and this is good because we engage in this conversation, and we will find everything on YouTube in April, recorded, as we were talking about recording, and also we will try to summarize all the inputs that are coming out of each webinar for the closing session. So we invite you to follow all the other webinars if you can, and also the closing session, because we will try to put all the reflections together and to comment them. And you are more than welcome to take part to that too. And so thank you again for being here today. Sorry for all the technological problems that we are experiencing. As we said before, we are adjusting to this situation. We would have preferred to do that in presence. And if there are no other closing comments, I would say ciao to all of you. Bye. Okay, see you.
Thank you very much.
Good Margaret, Sloan.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Orla.
Ciao, and thank you.
Ciao. Bonjour, Edouard. Maybe the students could stay a little bit to check